Hello there. Welcome to this video, which is about describing events. In this lesson, we are going to talk about what the main elements are in your speech and how you use grammar and what good vocabulary words you may use in describing events, and finally we will end with a practice. When you describe an event, you need to have these four main elements. You need to talk about when and where it was, who was involved, what happened, and finally, why it is so important that you still remember it and you are telling it. Let's now have an example about each element. Now, if you want, for example, talk about place and time, you may have like last Saturday evening, it was my friend's birthday party. We went for dinner in an Italian restaurant. You want to talk about the people who were involved. There were about 10 of us. He invited some close friends and work colleagues. Most of them were people I've known since university. You need to mention the main events and things that happened. You can have these examples. We met at the restaurant. I gave my friend a present and a birthday card. We ordered some food. While we were eating dinner, everyone was chatting. After the main course, the waiter brought out a cake and we sang happy birthday. Everyone went home quite late. Now, you have to mention why it was so important. Maybe because it made me happy. It was great to get together with old friends. I had some interesting conversations. It was a good opportunity to catch up with what my friends had been up to. It was a nice way to wind down after a hard week at work. The food was delicious. I went home feeling full after a fantastic meal. Now, what grammar, what kind of tense have you to use in your speaking? Usually try to use past forms, simple ones, but you can also use past continuous and past perfect. Check out this example in which I colored the tenses. Past simple, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. My friend and I were driving to the seaside the other day when we noticed that the traffic was unusually heavy. We knew that something had happened. Indeed, there had been an accident which had blocked the road. By the time we got to the scene of the accident, we had been crawling along for almost 2 hours. I had never been stuck in a traffic jam that long. Now, when you are describing events, try to use exaggeration, simile, and personification. This is, of course, related to the language you have to use. What do I mean by exaggeration? It is to describe something as greater than what it is in reality. Check out these examples. Instead of saying a big wave, big is very, you can say giant wave, huge wave, enormous wave. Instead of just simply saying a frightening sound, you may say a terrifying sound, a horrifying sound, a shrieking sound. And instead of just saying the water was running fast, you can say it was running wildly or wild or madly. What do I mean by simile? It is to compare two things that are alike in one way. And you can use two forms, as, adjective as, or like. Let's see these examples about as, adjective as. You can say it was as cold as ice, or the hail was hitting us as hard as nails. Our hope to start over was as large as life. Good. She was frightened. She turned as white as a ghost. Now, examples about like. After the storm, life was different, just like day and night, or night and day. The storm was roaring, just like an angry lion. The destroyed city smelled like death. The waves were washing out everything on their way, like a vacuum cleaner in the hands of a brat. Brat is a naughty boy. Just imagine that a naughty boy is carrying and holding a vacuum cleaner and washing out everything. Personification. What do I mean by personification? It is when you are assigning the qualities of a person to something that is not human or not even alive. Check out these examples. The stars were dancing playfully in the moonlit sky. Just imagine stars and dancing. The first rays of morning tiptoed through the ruins. So the ray of the sun was coming very slowly and quietly. The blizzard swallowed the town. Swallowed means eat. Now the blizzard covered the whole city that it disappeared. She did not realize that death was knocking at her door. Death is like a person who is knocking a door. I realized that my last chance to survive was walking out the door. So the last chance is like a person going away. The wind howled angrily. The storm attacked the town with great rage. The snow swaddled, covered and wrapped. The snow swaddled the earth like a mother would her infant child. The ocean swallowed the earth as the water continued to rise higher and higher. The tornado ran through town without care. The thunder grumbled like an old man. The tsunami raced toward the coastline. The wind sang through the meadow. The window panes were talking as the wind blew through them. So the window panes were just moving as two people talking. The avalanche devoured everything in its path. Devoured again, ate everything. The thunder clapped angrily in the distance. Now, when you are speaking and presenting your speech, remember always to keep eye contact with your audience. Use the right intonation, ups and downs in your voice. Try to make your face expressive. Use body movement and body language. And here is an example for that. We are going to talk about Hurricane Mitch, which happened recently. And of course, remember, you need introduction, body, and conclusion. You can start your speaking using such an example, such an introduction. Mitch turned onto the forecaster's video monitors as a huge, threatening spin in the middle of the Western Caribbean. Now, you need to describe this hurricane. So you can say, 3 days later, Mitch's target finally became clear. Central America, a land mass of poor nations, fragile houses, and vulnerable crops. It moved in for the kill. The wind was shrieking like a cargo train or a 747 jet taking off. Secure inside the concrete compound, people waited hellish 36 hours, listening to the crashing tree limbs, roof tiles, and big concrete blocks, and the infernal wind. Infernal again means hellish. For more than a day, the hurricane's eye hovered over the island, ripping apart wooden houses on columns, tearing boats from their harbors, knocking out power and telephones. Soon, the storm's fury moved to Honduras itself. It dumped as much as 25 inches of rain in a single day. Rivers swelled to several times their normal size, and the brown rapids snatched up houses, cows, and even people, and carried them downstream, sometimes to the ocean. The heavy rains soaked the hill country until the soil in some places became so wet that it finally slipped loose, sending mud, rocks, and trees spilling down onto homes, entire towns. The rain, up to 25 inches in mountain areas, had begun to take a huge toll. The floodwaters rose to stunning levels. The third floor of a hospital was evacuated as the river poured into the second floor. Now, how can you conclude this speech? You can say, the storm wiped out the brightly colored flowers and greenery that once covered the island, leaving behind a barren landscape. Or you can say, at a noisy shelter in a trade school, mothers wept silently as they cradled their children on mattresses slept on the floor. That is all for today's lesson, but before you leave, try to remember the following points. When you are speaking, remember to have eye contact with your audience. Use the right intonation, ups and downs while describing. Use facial expressions. Use body language. And remember to use exaggeration, simile, and personification in your speaking. That will give more strength and action to your description. That is all for today's video. I hope you learned something about describing events. Wish you all the best. Goodbye.